A serious question. If there are no migrant workers in the carpet farms or small farms, who's picking all of the fruits and vegetables? No one. It's rotting on the ground. Who's at the corporate farms tending to the chickens and tending to the cows and tending to horses? No one. So wouldn't it be a great guess that there are likely to be a food shortage in the next 3 to 6 months? Now, remember, Texas was the state that was complaining about illegal migrants, yet majority of the raids are in Florida, they're in California, and they're on farms. They're not on gangs. So one would think this is intentional because there is no one put in place to make sure that these fruits and vegetables and animals will be tended to. So one would really wonder, is causing a food shortage intentional? Because that's what's going to happen.
Texas, you guys are all up in Donald Trump's policies. I hope you guys learn a lesson once you see the ripple effect of the farms closing in your state. What's going to happen? And it's not just one farm. There's multiple farms that's closed down because these undocumented immigrants are scared and not showing up.
So Texas farms don't have no workers? I like salad, y'all. I mean, what we gonna do? I'm not going out there. Y'all should have left them folks alone. Now look at us. We already overweight, out of shape, high blood pressure. Now we ain't got no vegetables. I am just waiting on Maga to report to the fields. It's your turn.
Why aren't you guys in these fields in Florida? It's super weird. You guys need to get in these fields. This is your dream, not ours, Maga. Get in these fields and pick the food. I'm so confused where you all are at. You guys are, and believe me, I've done the research. You're all not college educated. This is where you guys should be at. You said a job is a job. That's what you guys said. You said that immigrants were taking our jobs. So you guys need to get in these fields and pick the damn fruit and vegetables.
42% of our agricultural workforce, 42% lack proper documentation. That means they should be deported in most people's eyes. That's almost half of your farmer workforce. Imagine what's going to happen when that falls off. Who's going to go work on the farms?
Here's a solution for undocumented workers in America. How about we give them work visas for the specific industry, but not give them work visas where the employer owns the rights to that employee. Make them legal where they can work here with a visa and they can work for anybody so that competition is fair, so that no longer can these greedy capitalist corporations take advantage and exploit undocumented immigrants and pay them in the shadows under the table. Now they have to pay them a fair wage. Now they have to honor labor rules and pay them overtime. Now they have to pay workers' comp, unemployment tax, payroll taxes. It's all on the up and up. Those guys can come work for people like me that will give them a fair shake.
We don't understand that a healthy country relies on births, relies on new blood and new people. I've spoken about this many times, but when it comes time for us to be on Social Security, it's the kids who will come after us, the workforce that comes after us, that pays for us to be on here. That's what happens. That's how it always plays out. If you have a lack of workforce, you're not going to have the money to put into this.
What's up, guys? Welcome to today's video. I'm so pleased to have you back on this channel. If you're new to this channel, kindly subscribe. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you for always taking your time to come back and watch my videos. So guys, in today's video, we'll be looking at some of the farmers in Florida, Texas, and California are really crying. They feel betrayed. As you know, most of them voted in for Mr. DT and his policies and his administration. What they are doing, they feel like they have been betrayed because the majority of them are losing their laborers, the immigrants who, because of ICE raids, are not turning to work. Like there are some places where almost 100% of immigrants have not turned to work because of DT policies. And also we'll be looking at some of the reactions of some of the Americans, majority of them from the blacks, what they are saying. As you know, this effect is not affecting only the Maga people. It is affecting all Americans. Both the Maga, the blacks, and the whites are being affected by these policies, because when the price of the commodities is high because of these policies, they all tend to feel the effect. So, welcome to today's video. I've prepared these reaction videos of these people. I want you to look at them before we come back for more comments.
You wanted this. Where are you at? I don't understand why you guys aren't picking all the fruit in the fields. Get in there and get our food.
Farms just lost 100% of their workers overnight. Crops are rotting in the field, livestock is dying, immigration raids are collapsing American agriculture. Americans are about to learn what the actual cost of food really is.
All right, Maga, get out there. Where are you at? You got your jobs back. You got your jobs that were taken from you. Get out there. Get out there and start working.
You guys want to take a break or no?
Do you want to take a break?
I mean, I don't want to slow the progress down, but I'm not going to complain. It's getting hot. My blood pressure's getting low. You get out there in that watermelon field, when you start chunking the melons, you're out in the middle of here. Think you're in the middle of the Sierra Desert. It is no joke. Hard work, hard labor, long, hot. We were out there, what? Felt like 2 hours. How long was it?
About 15 minutes.
15 minutes? Felt like at least 2 hours. How'd you think I did? I think I held my own pretty good.
Yo no creo que les aguantaste el ritmo.
Oh yeah. Now once I got in the groove of things, I was just, man, you get in the zone, and I started doing the twist method. Did you see that? That's pretty awesome. You try some walking watermelon field. No, I think I'm about to have a heat stroke.
¿Te gustó andar acá?
I don't know if you're speaking Spanish or English right now. Oh, hot!
You mean to tell me Americans don't want to pick lettuce for $2 an hour? No. Now the farmers are crying because they can't find any workers. Ain't that something? After you pushed out all of the immigrant workers who actually did the job, now you're standing around wondering why Chet and Kaylee won't come pick your cabbage in 100-degree weather for $4.75 and a Capri Sun? Y'all really thought folks were going to jump at the chance to break their backs for pennies on a dollar. But you know what's even funnier, y'all? Some of these farmers say the American workers they do get, they don't even last the whole damn day. One guy said somebody walked off by luck. And honestly, I support it. Listen, I wouldn't be out there picking strawberries and fighting bees and being dehydrated just so that farmer could sell those strawberries for $12.99 a box at Whole Foods. Negative. See, they've been telling you this lie for years. They took our jobs. Nah, Americans, you didn't want those jobs. You just didn't want them to have the jobs either. Now look at you, a field full of crops and not a soul to pick them. Next time, think twice before turning labor into a culture war. Because now, it's just you and your own damn tomatoes.
Policy decisions have consequences. I've said that before. And you might like what you get on the front end, but you might not like what you have to pay on the back end. See, farmers in Florida, especially tomato farmers, they're finding that out. There was a farmer interviewed on a Miami TV station, and he said that, there's two policies he kind of agrees with. One is the immigration policy, right? He says, I know we gotta do something about the borders, both north and south, but it's impacting my ability to keep staff because now a lot of my people don't show up for work. I mean, he understands that nearly half of the immigrant workforce that works on farms like his are undocumented. People are scared, both legal immigrants and undocumented immigrants. They're afraid to come to work. And he's been forced to try to hire people at a higher wage, which cuts into his profit margin, which is probably pretty slim to begin with, right? And then there's the tariff policy. See, Donald Trump's put tariffs on Mexican tomatoes. He's a tomato farmer, owns 4,000 acres in Florida and California. He said in Florida it's gotten so bad that he has to plow over fields of good tomatoes because he's got no one to pick them. And now that Mexico has been hit with this tariff on tomatoes, they're trying to get ahead of it and flooding the market with tomatoes right now. What do you think that does to the price of tomatoes in the United States? Drives it down. See, this farmer before, he was getting about $16 for a box of tomatoes. You know what he's getting now? $3 to $4. That's how much the market's collapsed. He needs about $10 to $11 just to break even. Think about the export side. So Canada's put a 25% tariff on watermelons coming from the United States. What do you think that means? Canadians might not want to pay the price. They're exporting a lot less watermelons. Farmers that are farming watermelons are feeling the pinch too. You see, you might like the policy. It might feel good on the front end. Yeah, we're closing the borders. Yeah, we're going to show them. We're going to put tariffs on them. But are you willing to pay the price on the back end? Some of you are. Some of you are really getting hurt by it. Be careful what you wish for. You just might get it. You might not like it.
Where is Maga when you need them? Nowhere to be found. Maga, look. Here's a Florida farm that needs employees. You said you wanted your jobs back. Look at all these jobs. You see all these trucks that's parked over here and all these crops, vegetation and fruits that's planted in Florida, which is a red state, by the way. Do you notice there's nobody on these fields? Take a very close look. No one is on these fields. You said you wanted your jobs back. Now you got your jobs back. Now get to work. Okay? And they'll say, well, what are you saying? People should just run around and be illegal in America? No, that's not what we're saying. What we're saying is the people who had their documentations and had a chance to get their self on the right side of the law, why didn't you give them a chance instead of chasing them down, dragging them out of schools, graduations, out of their homes? Why didn't you give them a chance so they could go through the system, get documented, and work in peace? That's all we're saying. Okay? Because I know a lot of you will get this twisted and try to twist stories and tell, well, you want to break the law. No, we want to do the right thing by people. We're human beings. That's it. A lot of these people had their documentations in the pipeline to become legal so they can work in the United States. But you made sure that you sent ICE to take it away. So here's your job. Go knock yourselves out. Okay? And don't think you're going to get a pay increase from these farmers either. You still get the same pay, no matter what. You understand?
Them farmers really thought we was going back to them fields. They really thought we was going back to them fields. You know what? My mother was the first generation on her mother's side not to be brought up on a plantation. My grandfather had a third-grade education, but he left my mama 2 houses, property, and money in the bank with a third-grade education. And guess what? He worked in fields. My great-grandmother worked in fields and cut that cane just like a man. You hear me? And if you think that Eddie Lewis and Victoria C. Jones and all the rest of my ancestors bust their tail in them fields for us to go back to the fields, absolutely not. That's not progress. We're trying to heal from ancestral trauma. We're trying to heal from that. That ain't happening. That produce could rot in them fields before we go back to them fields. They need to let them know that.
So I was on YouTube and I came across this video claiming that white farmers are outraged that black people do not want to work on their farms. And I thought it was fake because I was like, this has to be like clickbait or whatever. So I searched and I came across Facebook, and y'all, the comments were wild. I still wasn't sure if it was real. So I tried to go to the staffing agency's website, and y'all, apparently so many people went to their website that the website crashed. So I figured, okay, maybe this is actually real. So they're basically offering $11 an hour to pick blueberries, 9 to 10 hours a day, 7 days a week, from May to July in Louisiana heat. Now, I never heard of L'Aranger, so I decided to look it up real quick. So here's some info. And just so you know, my source is this website called places.us.com. So anyway, livability is a C minus. Population is less than 6,000. Demographics is almost 91% white, followed by Black, then Hispanic, then Indian, then Asian, and pretty much zero Hawaiian. I saw that they voted Republican in 2020, but it probably doesn't take a genius to guess how they voted in 2024. So that's just to give you a little info about the town. So anyway, back to what I was saying. So $11 an hour is what they're offering. Full time, 7 days a week, 9 to 10 hours a day. Now, according to salary.com, Louisiana's minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. So this is a bump. But let's be real. Now, for some people, they might say, oh, it's a job. Go work it. It's a job. But it's not a job, It's more like a sentence. And then when you look at who they expect to take these jobs, you don't have to guess. It's a page straight out of history. Black folks, migrant workers, the ones who are currently facing deportation right now. Vulnerable communities getting used for back-breaking labor for pennies. But people are saying this is what they voted for. So what do you think? Is it FAO season or what?
So when they cut Medicaid, the 12 million some odd people who are expected to lose their Medicaid, or more so, the people who will probably still be able to qualify for Medicaid, but they're going to have to prove that they work, are they expecting them to go fill out job applications to be farm workers? Because I just seen an article where in Northern California, they have to destroy food that is spoiling because there are no workers on the farm. So then I was thinking maybe this was a big plan to get people to work more because they say everybody don't want to work. But the people that didn't mind doing the work, heavily underpaid and under egregious conditions, they've all been blanketed as being like bad people. No, do they expect it to be AI? They're about to bring machines out there on the farms because the machine's about to melt in the sun. But I was like, oh, maybe they have like this grand plan. The thing is, I don't think this grand plan is going to work out towards their benefit, because what a lot of wise people who are older say is when you dig a ditch, make sure you dig two. The one you're digging for me and the one that you gonna get needs to go in as well. But you can't tell them people over there in DC nothing. So I always got to find out the hard way, I guess. But yeah, I don't think that's gonna work. Like the AI is not gonna do it. The people on the Medicaid not gonna do it either. And y'all, they have the audacity to say that the people who did do the work don't deserve to be here. That's crazy.
This is about cruelty, and we are shooting ourselves in the foot. The number went up. It's 3,000 people a day. Elementary school graduations. Courthouses, people doing it the legal way. 6 a.m, at work in the fields, picking. The logic that Americans are going to want to do these jobs? Like, what's the plan? Who's going to do these jobs? Like, think about it. Like, this can get even crazier really fast.
Look like farmers are running out of cash, y'all, under the crisis brought on by Trump. Some small farmers, they're on the brink of bankruptcy. They can't afford to run their farms. Well, they ain't got to worry. Because J.D. Vance is there, you had to buy up that land. But that's what they wanted from the beginning. That's my opinion. They wanted to boot some of the farmers out so they can buy that land. They wanted their land. It's a goddamn shame that the farmers didn't see it coming. Goddamn shame. Yeah, they didn't see it coming. If they had this, did a little more research, especially on J.D. Vance. He want that goddamn land. He want their land. That's my opinion. But if they had took the time and did some research, I think they wouldn't have voted Trump. But that's my opinion. Oh, well. They lose the land, they lose their land.
So it's come to my attention that the farmers who literally voted for Trump and voted for their own demise, who currently have crops sitting in their field that are rotting, and the farmers who are burning their own fields due to the crops rotting, they're thrown for a loop. And I guess they're thrown for a loop because they thought that once they got rid of the illegal immigrants, that black people were going to be out in the fields picking their crops, because they think that we don't have jobs, that I guess we sit around on our asses all day. And I think it's so crazy because they really don't understand that black people are very educated. They don't understand that a lot of us possess a college education and that we're qualified to do other jobs. They really think that we sit around taking advantage of the government all day.
Donald Trump, don't backpedal now. Now you're saying or acting like you're regretting or that it was a mistake that you did this mass deportation, although you set it in place and this was planned and thought out way before your presidency when y'all were concocting up this Project 2025. You had plenty of time to think about the consequences this was going to have, and you still proceeded with it. So now you're just realizing that all immigrants aren't criminals. Now you want to realize that they are actually hardworking people that have been working on these farms for over 20 years and just want to make an honest living for their family. Now you want to realize that now you have shipped all these hardworking immigrants off to their native land, that us Americans are not going to want to work in these fields for the prices that they are paying these immigrants. Now you're seeing that the farmers are suffering because of your dumb ass decisions. And it's sad because your blatant racism wouldn't allow you to actually delve into how agriculture works and how important the immigrants are when it comes to farming. And now you want to sit on a podium saying something needs to be done and that we have to use our common sense. Don't get French with us now. We ain't got to do nothing because I did not vote for you. I did not do this. So you need to fix this since they, the Maga people, voted for you.
It is fascinating that you think this is going to happen because it's not. They have tried for decades to try and get Americans to go pick in the fields, and it's failed every fucking single time. So let me give you a little history, okay? Let's go back to the year 1965. And there's a Secretary of Labor dude named W. Willett Wirtz, and he wanted to recruit 20,000 high schoolers and college students across America to go pick in the fields, okay? See, what happened was, prior to 1965, there was something called the Bracero Act. It was put into place during World War II. It was an agreement between the American government and the Mexican government that allowed Mexican agricultural workers to come up and harvest across the United States. Okay, what happened was there was an activist named Cesar Chavez, and he started to advocate against the poor working conditions, the wage theft, and many other things that were going on with the Mexican agricultural workers that were coming up and working. So America, rather than make conditions better, also don't forget this is during the Civil Rights Movement, they thought, you know what, we'll just end this program and we'll just have white boys go pick in the fields. That'll solve all problems. Let's get into it. They launched a program called A-Team. That's right, not the TV show with Mr. T. No, it was the agricultural team. And this was they put ads in the newspaper all across America to recruit. Here's the interesting thing. 18,000 people did sign up. However, only 3,300 actually participated in the program and got to work in the fields. Guess what happened? Problems immediately arose for the A-Team nationwide. Okay, so this is directly from an article. In California, Salina Valley, 200 teenagers from New Mexico, Kansas, and Wyoming quit just after 2 weeks on the job. We worked 3 days and all of us were broke. The Associated Press quoted one team as saying, students elsewhere staged strikes. Living conditions and wages were so bad that they quit. The experiment quickly disappeared into the proverbial dustbin of history.
Yes, guys, thank you so much for staying tuned. As you know, major disruptions this that you have just looked at the people talking in these videos have been felt across most of the US farms. For instance, in Florida, Texas, and even California. This is as a result of aggressive immigration enforcement by Mr. DT, with the ripple effects now being felt on supply chains of food, the labor availability, and crop yields. Let me give you a breakdown of what exactly is happening. First, we'll talk about the shortage of labor. Labor shortages has been brought about due to mass deportations and the raids by the ICE, the Immigration and Custom Enforcement, has been conducting widespread raids, detaining a number of people, hundreds of them, of the undocumented farm workers. These raids have left most of the fields abandoned and crops unharvested. These unharvested crops, most of them have spoiled. Even some of the farmers have decided to just plow the unharvested crops so that instead of them spoiling, they can decompose and form part of the soil. Also, the shortage of labor due to the fear by the ICE detaining the laborers. Some who are not even directly affected by the raids are staying at home out of fear. In some areas, up to 70% of workers have failed to show up, and some not even 70%. In others, almost to the tune of 100% are failing to show up after this enforcement sweeps.
So you wanted proof that the immigration policy would be affecting everyone? Look at your grocery bill next month and the next coming months. ICE ramped up raids in places like Ventura County and parts of the Central Valley fields in California. They went through fields, they went through houses, you name it, grabbing people up. Now, farmers are seeing up to 70% of their workers not showing up to work, left by fear of being arrested. And that means fruits, vegetables are going unharvested, which means they're going to go bad in the fields. A 1/6 generation farmer put it like this: if 70% of your labor force vanishes, so does your crop. And most local workers don't want to pick these plants. And it's a real worry. Cropland is worth nearly $60 billion, and that could be at risk of going into bankruptcy, being sold off to the next bidder, and that bidder may not be an American company. That could be a problem. Workers themselves are scared. One said, if I show up to work, I don't know if I'll ever come home to see my family again. The bottom line is, this isn't just hurting farms. It could raise food prices and disrupt supply chains nationwide.
Also, there's impact on the harvest. The farmers are missing critical harvest windows. By just them harvesting their crops by 2 to 3 days, it leads to their farm produce tend to spoil, and thus they tend to have financial losses. For example, cherry farms in Washington saw their workforce shrink from 100 to 30 within a week.
Washington State is the nation's top producer of sweet cherries, and if the fruit is not being picked, that means that there is going to be a shortage and prices are going to go up. Even a delay, even if there's just a delay in picking, fruit is rotting on the tree. Fruit is an ephemeral crop, y'all. Fruit can't just sit there hanging out. You have to pick it when it's ripe. And so any delay, any shortage of labor for any period of time is immediately lost revenue.
Also, they are having the economic and supply chain consequences. One of this problem in this sector is the food supply disruptions. California, which produces 1/3 of US vegetables and 2/3 of its fruits and nuts, is experiencing severe labor shortages. This affects everything from local grocery stores to the national retailers. As I have told you, this problem, I know majority of the blacks are reacting, and they are telling the whites that at first DT told them that the blacks are going to, when they are going to chase the laborers away, the blacks are the ones going to take those jobs. But the blacks are telling the whites that this is not the case, because majority of them have gone past college level of education. A majority of them are taking good kind of jobs. So as we speak, the Maga is not only the Maga that are being affected, because when the ripple down effects goes down, all of them are being affected. Also, there has been shortages in retail stores. Parking houses are falling behind and some farms have been left completely empty. One supervisor reported going from 80 workers to just 17 within an overnight. Also, there has been rising costs. With fewer hands to pick these crops, prices may rise due to the reduced supply and increased labor costs. And you know, these immigrant workers, they tend to work in very bad state, because you'll find that with the current climatic changes, they work in very high temperatures, and they are being paid peanuts, because some of these employers are taking advantage, because they know they are undocumented. Another thing that crops up from this whole situation is the political and policy tensions. We have farmer backlash, where many of these traditional farmers are Republican-leaning group. They feel betrayed. As I've told you, in the United States of America, majority of the farmers voted for Mr. DT. And as you know, 95% of the farmers in America are white, with the rest only with around 1.2% only with are black farmers. So with this 95%, they are leaning towards the Republic. They feel betrayed. They argue that the workers being deported are essential. They are not replaceable by untrained labor. Also, there have been some controversial proposals. Agricultural Secretary Brooke Rollins suggested replacing undocumented workers with Medicaid recipients, which was widely criticized as unrealistic and insulting. There have been also calls for reforms. Farmers are urging the administration to create legal pathways for long-time workers and streamline the visa process, a bill that is currently in Congress being discussed to address these issues. So this begs the question, what is the future of the U.S. agriculture? The United States agriculture sector is facing significant transformation driven by climate change, economic pressures, and technological innovation. The US government, on the other hand, is deploying a multifaceted strategy to ensure America's farms and ranches thrive for generations to come. Let's look at some of the key trends and the challenges. One of the challenges is the climate change, the changes in climate. With the changes in climate, we're looking at the impact of rising in temperatures. Some crops like corn and wheat are sensitive to high temperatures during the flowery period and the grain filling stages, which tends to reduce their yields. Also, dairy cows, for example, suffer from heat stress, leading to lower milk production, which it is estimated to cost the United States dairy industry over $1.2 billion annually. We also have erratic precipitation and extreme weather events such as drought, floods, and wildfires, which not only affect the agricultural sector, also the infrastructure and the real estate sector. And these all climatic changes tend to reduce the crop yields, and they also increase pest prevalence. We also have economic uncertainty. Even though the United States government is talking of offering stable access to capital, risk management tools such as federal insurance, emergency relief programs, and loan programs, over 50% of farmers are reportedly to be under financial stress due to rising input costs and volatile commodity prices. Also, we have the trade policy volatility, the trade wars, and the disruptions in global trade, especially with a country like China. They have reshaped demand patterns for the United States exports. The US government is cultivating new markets and works on maintaining the existing ones through several programs like the Market Access Program and the Foreign Market Development Program, which fund promotional activities and trade missions. Also, through the bilateral and multilateral agreements designed to lower tariffs and to improve standards and expand the United States export into high-growth region. We also have biofuel policy ambiguity. Unclear regulations around ethanol and biodiesel affect planting decisions and investment strategies. There has been sustainability push. There has been growing pressure to adapt environmentally friendly practices, including regenerative agriculture and reduced chemical use. The US has a 2023 to 2027 Farm Bill that provides the backbone for US agricultural policy, authorizing roughly $500 billion over 5 years to bolster farm income, conserve natural resources, and support rural communities. The United States Department of Agriculture has also ramped up investments in climate-smart farming practices by offering incentives for carbon sequestration and working lands, rewarding producers who adopt holistic resource-conserving systems. The federal government is also supporting innovations and research in genetics, robotics, and data analytics for the future of agriculture. This is done through grants and rewards through bodies like NIFA, National Institute of Food and Agriculture. United States USDA official projection for 2025 underscore an evolving landscape. The net farm income is forecast to decline modestly for a third straight year, reflecting lower commodity prices and persistent input costs. Agricultural exports are projected at 170.5 US dollar billions in fiscal year 2025, while imports reach 219.5 billion US dollars, highlighting the ongoing need for trade promotion and diversification. Yes, guys, so these are some of the challenges, and as you can see, the policies, even though the policies that have been placed by the United States government to ensure that the future of agriculture in the United States is in safe hands, there are still some challenges and problems. One of the bigger things that some of these people that have reacted in this video, one was talking about what is the future like of the future farmers. He was saying that the youth should be incorporated much into farming, because with the 95% of the farmers being white and 63%, more than 60% of the farmers are aged above 55 years. Something should be done to ensure that there is the continuity, there's the prosperity of agricultural sector.
If you're paying attention to agriculture in the news cycle, you might have noticed the efforts to expand the H-2A seasonal foreign guest worker program, or even make it easier to access a program for non-seasonal work. What you might not realize is the chilling effect this would have on American farm workers. Republicans and even some Democrats are talking about freezing, cutting, and even possibly discontinuing the federal adverse effect wage rate. Now, the AEWR is a yearly survey of wages by each area that determines the next year's minimum amount of pay for H-2A workers in that specific place. Protection makes sure that H-2A workers are not undercutting American farm workers' wages. If you seem confused, don't worry. It's actually really simple. The AEWR might seem complicated at first, but it's actually very simple and extremely important for American farm workers. Why is it so important for us to fight this, you may ask? Well, because if growers and their political cronies get their way, not only would the H-2A workers' wages be frozen, but their lower salaries could be an unfair competition for domestic workers. Now, this would affect all farm workers' wages. It would be just wrong for Congress to give growers another corporate subsidy that decreases wages even lower for farm workers who harvest the food we see on our shelves every single day and risk their lives harvesting the food we need. Importing more vulnerable workers, getting rid of the protections that keep them safe, and at the same time lowering American workers' wages and job security is not the right thing to do. Now more than ever, it is crucial for you to vocalize your opinion, so make sure to say no to these provisions which will harm farm workers in the U.S.
Someone asked me the other day, why is it that more of America's farmers have not yet turned on Trump? After all, he's cut farm-to-table programs, he's cut farm-to-school lunch programs, he's cut all kinds of funding for, structural improvements, drainage, climate resilience programs. He's cut all kinds of grant funding for farmers all across this country. He's cut USAID that has cost America's farmers billions. Ask farmers in Nebraska how they're doing right now. We are seeing silos full of corn and wheat and sorghum that go unsold. The United States government had promised to buy these crops, and then they pulled the contracts because Elon Musk gutted USAID. And all of this food, not just grains, but also milk that is turned into powdered milk, that was meant to go and secure our interests abroad and feed hungry people is now sitting unsold in the United States of America, and that is hurting our farmers. Why are more of them not pissed off? And somebody else said, well, why are more farmers not freaking out that all of their migrant labor is being snatched by ICE? We are seeing ICE running into farm fields, snatching migrants who are toiling, picking our food, the food to feed the American people. They are coming in and tackling and snatching these folks, abducting them, and stuffing them into detention facilities where billions of our taxpayer money is going to keep these people imprisoned. And someone in my comments who was from the Midwest said, oh, don't you understand, in a lot of these states, especially a lot of the grain farmers and dairy farmers, they don't actually use that much immigrant labor. If they have very mechanized, agricultural setups on their farms, then they're not really interfacing that much with migrant labor. And yes, I totally understand for those folks who are growing large amounts of soybeans and grains, that makes sense. But there are farmers all around the country that rely heavily on migrant labor, especially where I am on the West Coast, and they are about to feel the hurt real bad. It's starting to be that time of year where more and more crops need to be picked. And while it was an issue earlier in the year, like in Florida and Southern California, we saw a little bit of farm laborers who didn't want to show up to pick strawberries and broccoli and citrus because they were worried about ICE. Well, now we are seeing the Republicans in Congress. Republicans are now the fascist party of this country, right? They are fully consolidated as a fascist party. They have now agreed to take billions of our tax dollars and expand ICE tenfold. The Republicans in Congress have now given Donald Trump $150 billion of our hard-earned tax money to create his own massive secret police force, his own Gestapo that will be terrorizing communities all over the country. There's $150 billion for raids, but $0 for Medicaid. Do not forget that Republicans did that to all of us. And so now we are seeing a tenfold increase in the completely rational fear of our hardworking migrant farm workers who feed this nation. And guess what? Farmers all around the country, right at a time when cherries and soon plums and peaches and all kinds of other crops around the country are coming ripe, crops that by and large need to be picked and sorted by hand. There's a massive farm labor shortage because workers are terrified that they are going to be snatched off the job, that while they are working, someone will snatch them out of the field and they will never see their families again. I'd like to point you to a piece from Spokane Public Radio from last week. It's called Fear of ICE Causes Labor Shortage for Washington Cherry Growers. We've had 200 years of migrant farm workers in this country traveling from Mexico up the West Coast, following the picking season to harvest our food. Now, we've also had 200 years of abusing those farm workers, exploiting them, refusing to pay them a living wage or giving them safe work conditions. Yes, one of the things I've said previously is that I hope at the end of all of this, one of the things that comes out of this is that we understand the people who pick our food, they deserve dignity, they deserve a living wage, they deserve safe working conditions. They also deserve justice, and the people who are doing this to them deserve accountability. What we're seeing is a lot of the stone fruit pickers up here in Oregon and Washington, they come up from California and they are afraid to make that drive. They're afraid that there will be checkpoints where they will get abducted. They're afraid once they get here that they will be abducted by ICE. And so they're hiding. I can only imagine what kind of food insecurity that creates for their families. So the Spokane Public Radio piece talks about how the cherry picking labor shortage in Washington state is reaching a crisis point. They interview a woman named Rosa Hernandez who is picking cherries at an orchard in Wenatchee. She was one of the few who was willing to make the drive from California to Washington to pick this year. She did so because she's an American citizen. But she said even though she is a U.S. citizen, she was terrified to make the drive because she's a brown person. We are seeing ICE doesn't give a shit about your citizenship. If you look like you could potentially be an immigrant or have immigrant ancestry, if you happen to have any kind of an accent, if you speak Spanish, they don't care, they will snatch you. And there's no oversight for you. There's no protection for you right now. She talks about how she did the long drive up to Washington state and she was afraid to pull over at rest stops to go pee because they have heard that ICE agents are waiting at rest stops. They're waiting at gas stations to snatch people. One of the farmers that they interviewed said that he's really terrified they can't get people to pick their cherries, and that impacts the financing of their farm. So when you couple the fact that fruit is rotting on the tree with the cuts in grant programs and the volatile economic circumstances in the United States, he's worried that what we're going to see is by next year, more and more farms will be going under. Even Fox News for Seattle, even Fox News is covering this story, saying the growers are not just worried about cherries, they are worried that these labor shortages will extend to apples, grapes, and many other fruits that are grown in Washington state, also grown here in Oregon. Fox News called immigrant farm workers essential to our agricultural system. They said growers across central Washington say fears of immigration enforcement and potential ICE raids are keeping workers away from the field and are currently threatening to leave millions and millions of dollars worth of cherries unpicked, rotting on the trees.
This is the video for today. If you have not subscribed to this channel, kindly do me the favor of subscribing to this channel, liking this video, leave a sweet comment, and also share this video out. Thanks. Until next time, God's blessings.